years ago, the tragedy that occurred in Niagara Falls, New York, known as the Love Canal, still shocks the nation by the horrendous results of chemicals. It started in the 1890s when William Love, an ambitious man, envisioned the creation of an enormous utopian metropolis with a man-made canal to provide water and power the community. However, due to lack of funding, this plan quickly fell apart. In 1942, Hooker Chemicals and Plastics Corporation took over the area. And by 1952, they had buried over 20,000 tons of toxic chemicals. Then, in 1953, Hooker Chemicals sold the canal for only $1 to the Board of Education, with the understanding that they wouldn't be responsible for future damages due to the presence of buried chemicals. An elementary school was then built right on top of the pit, and hundreds of houses were built in the surrounding area. By the late 1970s, the chemical waste started leaking into basements and more problems followed. One particular family that was affected was local mother Lois Gibbs, whose son attended the new school, who was one of the first to try and bring attention to fix the problem of the Love Canal.
I noticed at first that Michael had been constantly ill since starting at the new school. He suffered from asthma, a urinary tract infection, and had a low white blood cell count. I quickly found out that the whole neighborhood was ill, and so we formed the Love Canal Homeowners Association. We found that 56% of the children born in our community were born with birth defects. Children were born with 3 ears, double row of teeth, and extra toes. During this time, 22 women were pregnant, and out of those, only 4 babies were normal. The rest ended in miscarriages, stillborns, or birth defects. Nothing was done to negate this disaster because places like the health department blamed it on a random clustering of genetically affected people. Finally, after years of fighting, 833 families were evacuated when it was realized that there were about 400 types of chemicals in the air, water, and soil, one of which was dioxin. In the end, agencies at the state and federal levels spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to clean up the pollution.
Hooker Chemical and Plastics Corporation ended up being persuaded to contribute about $130 million to the cleanup. The Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act came directly out of this tragedy because it is used to fund cleanup of similar sites like Love Canal. Nowadays, there's a neighborhood known as the Black Creek Village just north of the Love Canal that is declared as safe. However, most of the area is sectioned off by a chain-link fence as a reminder to the tragedy that struck the area that was only meant to be a successful and beautiful community.